Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Journey Through Torah. This week, we're going to talk about Pekudei, accounts. We are closing out the book of Shemot. We'll be starting a new book next week, next portion. But for here, as we are closing this book, we find some very important things that we need to address. We have to address these issues. We're talking about the tabernacle. It's working in our midst. And the purpose of these things, which we've built all along up to here, it's that the presence of Yahweh dwells within us and that we are a tabernacle for him to dwell in, right? But what we have here is that Moshe giving an account for all of these things that were brought to him. That's the word Pekad. Pekudei is to give an account. And so this gives us some issues that we need to address here. Yahweh showed Moshe the plan for the tabernacle, and he has to give an account that those who were charged with building it, constructing it, and supposed to be putting the pieces together, that everything was made and done exactly as Moshe was shown. And what he was shown was to be a copy of that which is in the heavens. We're going to go to the book of Hebrews. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. And we're also going to address the idea of to giving an account of all these things that Yahweh has entrusted us with, and give an account of our lives and how we've used our lives to build for him and working together in those things. We're also going to look at the covenant and how this was supposed to work within the issues of covenant, and how the writer of Hebrews was addressing some of these things as well. How Yahweh gave us these things to live as examples and show us how he wants to dwell within us and how we're to live our lives. And those don't just change one day. You know, it didn't just all of a sudden say, all these things, which was my heart that I was giving you, that I was showing you, oh, never mind. No, that's not it at all. Okay. And that was never the intent or the purpose, even in Hebrews when it's talking about these things. That's not the intent or the purpose. We'll get into that. Okay. But for now, we're going to talk about the issue of giving an account, and understand Yahweh has given us these things to work together. We see in Exodus 38:21, these are the accounts of the tabernacle of testimony, recorded as Moshe ordered by the Leviim under the direction of Ithamar the son of Aaron the Cohen. What we have here is that everything is accounted for. Everything that was given and used for the service of the Mishkan and the Leviim, all of these things were given. But ultimately, they were all brought before Moshe, and Moshe had to give an account to Yahweh. He had to give an account for all of these things and all of these items and how they were implemented and put in together. Now, we have an example of this. Moshe wasn't just giving an account of the items and the things that were made, the things that were fashioned. He also had to give an account of the people and how they were used as well. You know, when he said of Bezalel and Oholiab, here these men were given to do this construction in Israel, and listen, here's these guys. But he has to give an account not just of himself, but also these guys who he said, this is who was given authority to do that. He had to show that it was done. He had to show that all these things were as it was supposed to be. And that goes back into, we're all different parts of the body. We all have different functions. We all see things a little different. We all do things a little bit different. But ultimately, we are all parts of the body, and we need to learn to function as parts of the body. And Yahweh has given us people to help in working together in the different parts, in these different functions, right? Many call this the fivefold ministry and these things, right? Not one position is better than anyone else or over anyone else, or that's not at the point at all. The point is Yahweh gave all of us gifts. Some of these gifts were to be used to help keep people focused, keep people directed towards the things that were important and how we're supposed to live our lives and have our hearts toward Yahweh and do things. And that was part of these things that Moshe was given to the people of Israel as well. Hebrews 13:17 says, obey your leaders and submit to them, for they watch over your lives as people who will have to render an account. So make it a task of joy for them, not one of groaning, for that is of no advantage to you. See, what he's saying is that if anyone at all is given any kind of responsibility or authority at all, they have to give an account for what they've done with it before Yahweh. Okay, that's what the gist of that is getting at. So again, understand, if you say you want to be a teacher, if you say you want to have this place within the body, that is a greater accountability and responsibility. And that's not something to take lightly. It's not something to take easily. Matthew 12:35-37 says, a good person brings forth good things from the store of good, and the evil person brings forth evil things from the store of evil. Moreover, I tell you this, on the day of judgment, people will have to give account for every careless word they have spoken. For by your own words you will be acquitted, and by your own words you will be condemned. James goes a little further in this. He says, not many of you should become teachers, brothers and sisters, since you know that we will receive a stricter judgment. So as one who was given some authority and some responsibility, he has to give an account that he conducted this in a way that gave honor and glory to Yahweh, and he did what he was supposed to do. Okay? So it was all brought to Moshe, and everything that was given to Moshe was exactly as it was shown to Moshe. He had to make sure he received the instruction for the Mishkan, but yes, this is how it was made, and he had to say, these are how these parts are supposed to go together, these are how things are supposed to fit together, this is its function, this is what it's supposed to do, and all of these things was given as a copy of that which was in the heavens. We see this in Hebrews. Let's go to Hebrews 8:5. It says, they are serving what is a copy and a shadow of the heavenly original. For when Moshe was about to erect the tent, God warned him, see to it that you make everything according to the pattern you were shown on the mount. See that? Not just explained, but shown. He saw these things. Hebrews 9:24 says, the Messiah has entered a holiest place which is not man-made, merely a copy of the true one, but into heaven itself, in order to appear now on our behalf in the very presence of Yahweh. So he says that there is a copy, the tabernacle here on earth, of that which is eternal, that which is in the heavenlies. Okay? So the idea to have this Mishkan in our presence and to have it functional and operational is to show us the things that are going on in the heavens. And further, we have an understanding, an idea of how Yeshua brings us into the presence of the Most High. Again, the tabernacle is supposed to teach us these things, right? So the tabernacle, once it was there and once it was put in place, it's not just to look at, it's to have a function, it's to show us how these things worked. Now, one thing to understand, that once this was set up and once it was put into place and it was to be functional, you had to be clean to come to the courtyard. Because remember, Yahweh says, I'm going to meet you there at the courtyard. And so as we come to the entrance to the tent of meeting, we're coming to the courtyard. Yahweh says he meets us there. We have to be clean to enter into that place. Now, this is where we say, thank Yahweh, that Yeshua says that when we come to him, he cleanses us and he purifies us. But that's it. You have to see the picture of it before you can understand how it was put in. So we see this example. All those entering the courtyard, they must be clean, just as the same when they were at the mountain, when they were at Mount Sinai, the same thing was given there. We see this in Exodus 19, 10 through 15, and in Leviticus 15, 31 to 34. This is also speaking in Revelation 21, 27 of the New Jerusalem, when it says, nothing unclean will ever enter it, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. So back to this, coming into the courtyard, and what's special about the courtyards? What's special about the courtyard is Yahweh says that's where he will meet with you. But I thought the idea was to be brought into the most holy place. Yeah, that's just it. You can't just walk into the most holy place. You come to the courtyard, and then once you come to the courtyard, you are ushered in to the presence of the Most High. Sometimes there are places where you can go, and there are places where you can't go further, but you're brought in by proxy. Okay, you're brought in by a substitute, by someone who is doing this on your behalf. Okay, again, pictures of Yeshua. All right, Exodus 29:42 says, through all your generations, this is to be the regular burnt offering at the entrance of the courtyard to the tent of meeting before Adonai. There is where I will meet with you, and there I will speak with you. And if we go forward in the scripture, we see that building the courtyard completes the work. When they put everything else together, okay, that's fine, but it wasn't considered complete until the courtyard was established. Guys, it wasn't considered complete until the boundaries were in effect. You see how that relates to us? The boundaries, it's the word of Yahweh, the boundaries that protects that which is supposed to be life from the rest of the world. It protects that which is supposed to be clean from the rest of the world. It is a sanctuary. Yes, it is a sanctuary, literally, but it is a place of the rest of the world doesn't touch it. It doesn't matter. And that's what we're supposed to be within us, is a place for Yahweh to dwell. The rest of the world can't touch it. So building the courtyard completes the work. We see in Psalm 84:10 says, better is one day in your courtyards than 1,000 elsewhere. Better at just standing at the door of my God's house than living in the tents of wicked. See, why standing at the door? Because that's where the courtyard is. Better than just standing at the door. Psalm 96:8 says, give Adonai the glory due his name. Bring an offering and enter his courtyards. How do we enter his courtyards? Bring an offering. In Psalm 100, verse 4, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courtyards with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his name. See that? When we come before him, we praise and we give thanks and we give of ourselves and we enter in. So we have this picture. We're getting ready to enter into the tabernacle. We're getting ready to put the tabernacle into worship. We're getting ready for all these things to start its function, right? But before we can go back and look at some of these things, we've got to come to an understanding. We say, oh, all these things were given for us to learn how Yahweh is dealing in things with us now and today, and it is, but we've got to take a good look at some of these things. And unfortunately, over time, words change meanings, right? And even within different nations, different countries, the same word can mean different things, especially over time, things change. And translations change as well. We can all be reading the same scriptures and have different understandings of it, and even the same words, let alone different translations. So unfortunately, some languages don't translate well into other languages. We read it and have to mechanically put the words, and there's some parts of the phrase that may be missing, and so when you translate, you have to insert certain words or phrases to complete the thought in another language. Problem is, in doing so, it's easy to miss minute points. It's easy to miss little things that maybe weren't intended or that were intended. It's easy to misconstrue these things, right? So these are one of the issues that we're dealing with, guys. A few things we need to understand. If we're going to understand the copy, the tabernacle here on earth, then we need to understand a few things regarding the original, the tabernacle that is in heaven. But in order to do that, in order to understand the tabernacle that is in heaven, we need to understand what we have been termed as Old Covenant and New Covenant. And wait a minute, how does that fit? How does that resolve? Because you'll see when we start to look at issues regarding the tabernacle, we'll see that this word covenant has been placed in where it really shouldn't have been. We'll get to that here in just a minute. What the writer of Hebrews is telling us about the original tabernacle. That's what we're going to look at in Hebrews 8, chapter 8, verse 7. And we're going to go in a little bit about this. Some of this is just a translation issue. And we'll say, how do we understand translations? How do we understand different things? We have to insert some words into the text. That's what happened here, guys. In Hebrews 8, 7, it says, for if the first covenant had been faultless, there should no place have been sought for the second. So notice, if you look in some translations, like in King James, it'll have the word covenant in italics. What that means is, that's not an original word. That word isn't there. It was inserted by the translators. And if that word is not supposed to be there, it can change the meaning of some of the texts. Okay, so what we have here is an idea of, okay, so what we're reading here, this is a very mechanical reading. We're looking at context. What word do we put here? Well, let's put covenant. And if that is our bias, that the old covenant is done away with, then it's the first thing that comes to mind, isn't it? Oh, what's been done away with? Oh, the covenant's been done away with, the old covenant. So we're going to put that in there. It doesn't belong there. Okay? It doesn't belong there. Because if you look through the book of Hebrews, there are some times where the writer of Hebrews is speaking about an old covenant and a new covenant. But we see other times where he's speaking about the tabernacle and the priesthood. And then other times he's speaking about this world, this current world, and the world that is to come. So as we read through these things, we have to first glean which one of these things is he addressing, and how do we translate this? And that's, again, part of the problem. So how do we read this? In Hebrews 8, 7, it says, for if the first have been faultless, there should no place have been sought for the second. So the word for first is protos, and the word for second is deuteros. You may be familiar with the word prototype. That's where this word protos comes from. It's the first of its type. It's a prototype. So protos is first, and deuteros is second. So what we have here is, does it say covenant there? No, it does not say covenant there. It says first and second. So the first and second, what? What are we talking about? And you can say the first and second in many different regards, right? And that's part of the problem. So let's go back and look at it. For it says, if the first have been faultless, the protos have been faultless, and there should no place have been sought for the deuteros, for the second. So what is it supposed to mean if not covenant? Well, guys, context. Keep reading. Okay? What's the next verse say? For finding fault with them, he says, behold, the days come, says the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. So where was the fault here? Was the fault with the first covenant? Is the first covenant obsolete? No. The fault was not the covenant. The fault was with the people. The Torah was not at fault. What at fault was the people who broke the Torah. The problem is that the problem with the protos is that Yahweh had fault with the people. The weakness of the first, the weakness of the protos, was that we were imperfect. We sought after idols quite immediately, right? The whole golden calf issue while Moshe was up on the mountain, right? Yahweh kept his end of the deal. We didn't keep ours. So what's the answer here? Should Yahweh lower the standard of righteousness? He's going to change who he is, what he calls holy, what he calls righteous, and make himself not so holy, not so righteous, so that we as defiled people can come and be with him and stay defiled and bring defilement to him. And is that the answer? No. Because in Malachi 3:6, it says, I am Yahweh, I change not. See, we read of Yeshua, he says he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So is the answer for Yahweh to change so that we can be accepted? No, not at all. Yahweh's word does not change so that we can be accepted. Yahweh changes us so that we will be accepted. That's what Yeshua came to do. He came to change us. He didn't come to change his word. He didn't come to do that. He came to change us. And so it's the same thing with the tabernacle. When we come and we approach the tabernacle and we're bringing our worship, we're bringing a representation of ourselves. And the goal is to be represented before the Most High in the most holy place. And we have something that comes from here and goes to the altar and lays its life down and is put in the fire of the smoke so that it goes into the presence of Yahweh. Something is bringing us into the presence of Yahweh. And that's a picture of what Yeshua does for us. He does not change the word. He changes us, right? Once you come in, you are recreated. Old things have passed away. All things have become new, and he changes you and your heart and your life and everything. This is the better promises of the Deuteros. This is the better promises of the second. Where we have failed, Yahweh says it now, he's going to change within us, write his word on our heart, and make us and fashion us into what he has called us to be. See, the protos, the first, showed us sin, and then we being sinful, we're condemned. But now coming to Yahweh, it results in a recreation of you where the Torah is now written on your heart. That's what Jeremiah 31 says, guys. It is now the Torah written on your heart. He changes you, your heart, your life. Now you can come into his presence and to do that. So back to Hebrews. Let's keep going. Hebrews 8:13. In that he says anew, see the word covenant? It's not there. Remove it. So in that he says anew, he has made the first old. Now that which decays and waxes old is ready to vanish away. It's about to vanish away. So again, are we talking about the first covenant? It's getting ready to disappear. It's getting ready to go away. The Torah is about to be removed and go away. Guys, that would contradict what Yeshua said. When Yeshua said in Matthew 5, do not think that I have come to do away with the Torah of the prophets. I have not come to do away with the Torah of the prophets, but to fulfill them. Word fulfill, again, does not mean to do away. To show them as complete, to show them how they're to be lived out and to be held firm among our life, to show us how to do it. Okay, so it doesn't say that the Torah is obsolete, it's changing and disappearing. It says the protos, the first. What first? In this regard, he could be speaking of the role of the Aaronic priesthood. We come to him and we are brought in to the presence of Yahweh. Well, he's doing that. Okay, so we could be talking about the role of the Aaronic priesthood. Further, this role of the Aaronic priesthood is about to disappear, which it did when the temple was destroyed a few years after this writing. So this first, the Aaronic priesthood that was there, is about to be done away with for the moment. Consider that. Torah is not equated here with Old Covenant. The Old Covenant was the initial agreement that was immediately broken with the sin of the golden calf. Yahweh at that point said to Moshe to renew this covenant. He did this at the mountain. You go back and you read through Exodus, read through chapter 24, 18 to 24, and it will tell you, so these people broke this agreement. Yahweh gave him a second set of tablets and reaffirmed this agreement with the people of Israel. And then he made covenant there with the people of Israel, right? Go back and read it, guys. It's really amazing to see. He's talking about the blood of the covenant that was given here in Exodus, right? Okay, so this is what it is in Jeremiah 31. And when Jeremiah is talking about this, when the covenant is complete, all will know Yahweh, and the Torah will be written on everyone's heart. Are we there yet? Do we all know him yet? No, we don't. So guess what, guys? We are still in process of this. It has not happened yet. We are not done with that yet. Okay, so even the phrase "new covenant" is an old covenant term, to use that terminology. The new is expressed in the Torah, in the Tanakh. The new is expressed in the Tanakh, and it is veiled from those who do not perceive the Messiah in the Torah. The Torah was the new covenant document for first century believers. For first century believers, the document of covenant was Torah. Why would it be different for us? In 2 Corinthians 3:14-18, it reads, "What is more, their minds were made stone-like, for to this day the same veil remains over them when they read the Old Covenant. It has not been unveiled, because only Messiah is the veil taken away." What goes away? The Old Covenant? No. What goes away is the veil. What changes is not the word. What changes is you and how you see it. How do you perceive the word now? That's a change of heart. Back to 2 Corinthians 3:15. "Till today, whenever Moshe is read, a veil lies over their heart. But, says the Torah, whenever someone turns to Adonai, look at what it says, the veil is taken away." Not the Torah is taken away. Not what Moses said is taken away. The veil is taken away. Now, verse 17 says, "Now Adonai" in the text means spirit. And where the spirit of Adonai is, there is freedom, liberty. So all of us with faces unveiled see as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, and we are being changed into his very image from one degree of glory to the next by Adonai the Spirit. So what we have here again is both new and old are fully expressed in the Torah. The only difference between these two is the person reading it. When you have become changed, see, you're now walking with him in his presence. The word doesn't change. The Torah doesn't change. The Torah is the same. Yahweh is the same. You change. The difference is you. You have been transformed. You've been renewed. You've been recreated. You've been remade. All things have passed away. All things have become new. Only in the Messiah does this happen for us, because Yeshua said he will cleanse us and do that. If we say that the old covenant is done away with, then at what point will this covenant be done away with? If he can just scratch a covenant and do away with it, then what's to say at some point he's just going to do that with what he said here? And that's when people would say, "Oh no, but his word is eternal and he keeps his promise and keeps his word," unless it was what we call the old covenant. See, it doesn't work that way. Yahweh is faithful, he is just, he is true, he does not change. Therefore, we can count on him. Okay? So back to this word here. So if something is there, it's old, it's obsolete, it's aging, it's about to disappear, what is it? We're talking about the role of the Aaronic priesthood? Possibly so. What about the temple? In a way, yes, because it was destroyed about 40 years or so after Yeshua was resurrected. And the Aaronic priesthood, well, could they serve without a temple? In order for them to do their job, they had to have a temple there. So again, that would become obsolete at that point because that would render the service gone. So what happens here? The protos, the first. What's the deal with the first? We're talking about the earthly realm. What is the first? Not the old covenant, the earthly realm. What is the first here? Our condemnation, the old order of things, this present world, our sin, our shortcomings, our failings, all of these things no longer have the need to say no Yahweh, because all will know him. That's what we're talking about. That's where we're heading. That's where we're going. The protos, the first, will be swallowed up in the deuteros, will be swallowed up in the second. We will have a new world, a new heaven, a new earth. We'll have a new order of things. We'll have the Messiah Yeshua himself in our midst, and then we will all have complete submission to Yahweh as he lives with us and we live with him. It's a completely new thing. So the deuteros, the second, will be completely there. We're not there yet. Hebrews 9 verse 1. Then verily the protos, the first, had also ordinances of divine service and a worldly sanctuary. The protos, the first order, the old order, this present age, the priesthood was a function of the old order, an earthly sanctuary. It's not talking about, so the first covenant had the ordinances of divine service and worldly sanctuary. Guys, this was the priesthood that had these things. Okay? The function of these things considers the priesthood that's given there. We talk about, God's law, and we're divided into different parts, moral and ceremonial. Guys, Yahweh did not give his word to us like that. If we divide it like that, then what we're saying is there are parts of his, like if we say, the moral law of God, if we divide it like that, then we're saying the other parts that he gave were not moral. We can't do that. That's not how he gave them to us. Now, there are some things we cannot do, some things we cannot observe because we do not have the means to do so. Right? There's a lot of the commandments that Yahweh gave. Some were for men, some were for women, some were for the priesthood, some were for the temple only. Some were for in the land of Israel, some were for outside the land of Israel. I mean, there were different things, right? So again, what is our heart in approaching and doing this? We need to learn to walk with him and to see where he has us in our midst, and that we glorify him in that, and not try to do away with being obedient. See, and all of these things we're trying to work our way out for being obedient to Yahweh, where we have this gospel, this idea of just give your life to him and everything will be okay. You don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to change. You don't have to do anything different. Just come to him. And see, and that's the problem. We don't have to change to come to him, but once we come to him, we surrender to him, submit to him, and he says he will change us. We have to submit to that process. Because we cannot come to him in pride and rebellion and say, I want you to change me, but not like that. We can't do it. If our heart is for Yahweh, we'll have a heart to be obedient. Okay? So what are the things regarding this earthly sanctuary? We have a picture here. The earthly sanctuary was not the Mishkan, the tabernacle, as a whole. The tabernacle was three parts: the outer court, the inner court, the holy place. We have the outer court, and we have the holy place, and then the most holy place, right? So the tent was two parts, and then the part around it, the courtyard, was surrounding to protect the tent. It was three parts, but we have in the tabernacle, we have the holy place and the most holy place, okay? So the holy place was just outside the veil. So that's when you first go in, we're in the holy place, and this was just outside the veil regarding the most holy, okay? So again, the Mishkan had two parts: the holy place, the most holy place. In Hebrews 9:2, it says there was a tabernacle made, the protos, the first. When you go in, the holy place, you're in the first. Okay? So the first, wherein, so now he's explaining what he's talking about: the candlestick, the table of showbread, all this was there. This is what is called the sanctuary, or the outer. This is the holy place. And then after the deuteros veil, the second veil, which is the tabernacle, which is the most holiest of all, the most holy place. So the protos represents this present world. When we see this first going in, what some would call the old covenant, right? We're coming in and we're offering the prayers, we're doing these things, all these things are being done, the incense, all this stuff, the showbread, all this there. But then the goal is to go into the most holy place, into the very presence of Yahweh. This is the world to come. And this is where Yeshua brings us into these things. The picture goes together. The Mishkan, like the Torah, represents the protos and the deuteros. They represent both this world and the world to come. They represent both covenants, both the holy place and the most holy place, working together, of showing us Yahweh's desire for us. Hebrews 9:4-5 says, so this has the golden censer, the ark of the covenant, overlaid round about with gold, wherein was the golden pot that had manna, Aaron's rod that budded, and the tables of the covenant. Right? What are the tables of the covenant? The 10 Commandments, right? 10 sayings. And over it, the cherubim of glory, shadowing the mercy seat, of which we cannot now speak particularly. So inside the Holy of Holies, inside the Deuteros, was the incense censer, which was the prayer and intercession. The incense censer was right there before it, but as the smoke would go into behind the curtain and fill the most holy place. The ark, which is the throne of Yahweh. The cherubim, who guard the way to the tree of life and cover the throne of Yahweh, represented there. The jar of manna, which is the word of Yahweh from heaven. The Aaron's rod that budded, the symbol of authority, being watchful, and of resurrection. And at the most inner part of the Holy of Holies, inside the ark, inside the very place where Yahweh dwells, is the 10 Commandments, the Torah, the 10 sayings, the 10 words. At the very heart of the Deuteros is the Torah, the teaching and the instructions of Yahweh himself. So as we approach and we go in, What is the very core, the very center of where we're going? To the Torah, to his heart, to having his heart written in our heart, right? We're exchanging. We give him our heart and he gives us back one that is his. See, both of these things working together. One doesn't do away with the other. One works with the other. Both are important. Could you enter the holy place without the intent of keeping your heart on who is on the other side? Could you enter the holy place without a reverence of who's right there behind that other veil? Could you enter the holy of holy place without first going through the holy place? Granted, only Aaron could do it, but you understand the question. In order to enter in the most holy place, you had to go through this way. It's the only way to do it. There was no other way. And at the very core of that was the Torah, the heart of Yahweh himself. The heart is expressed through obedience to the word of Yahweh. Here's the thing, guys. None of the sacrifices could take away sin, even what was considered the sin offerings. None of them could take away sin. But here's where we have a misunderstanding. Nor were we ever told they would. None of the sacrifices we were ever told it would take away sin. The sacrifices have no amazing magical or mystical powers or anything like that. You were always saved by grace through faith. It's always been that way throughout the entirety of man's existence. It's no different. So it was in faith of the people bringing the offerings in obedience with the heart of worship and service that Yahweh said he would honor. It is we bring the offerings because we are acting in faith. We're bringing because Yahweh said, and we're doing so in faith. We're being obedient, and then we come to him, and then he will bring us into his presence. We find his grace, faith, and obedience work together. Galatians 3:6, it says it was the same with Abraham. He trusted God and was faithful to him, and it was credited to his account as righteousness. See that? How did Abraham walk with Yahweh? He trusted him, and he listened to his voice. That's obedience, and it was counted to him as righteousness. John 14:15, Yeshua says, if you love me, you will what? Keep my commands. John 14:23 and 24, Yeshua says, if someone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. Someone who doesn't love me doesn't keep my words, and the word you are hearing is not my own, but the Father who sent me. Yahweh wants us to keep his word. He's called us to be a people that are set apart as a community to come together in a place of unity to see the completed work of the Mishkan. And what does that mean? The completed work of the Mishkan. What completed it? We already said this. What completed it? Building the courtyard, setting the boundaries of the holy, setting the boundaries of the place of worship. We see in Exodus 40, 33, and 34, so he erected the courtyard around the tabernacle and the altar, set up the screen for the entrance to the courtyard, and then a cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of Adonai filled the tabernacle. That's what we want, isn't it? The glory of Yahweh to fill the place of his presence. Well, that's what we're supposed to be. And how does that work? Don't remove the boundaries. If you remove the boundaries of the courtyard, then anything that is unholy or common can encroach the holy things and defile them. Don't remove the boundaries. Don't remove the borders that Yahweh said you were to have in these things. See, as we approach him, we're to be ever more mindful of what is holy, what is common, what is clean, what is unclean. Don't remove those boundaries as we try to come in to the holy presence of Yahweh. And he said, like we read before, come apart, come away from them. Don't touch the unclean thing. I will receive you. I will be your God. You will be my people. Again, learning to walk with him. Learning to walk in his ways. A lot to be said there, isn't there? Well, guys, hazak, v'nit, hazak, be strong, and may we be strengthened. As we read through the word of Yahweh, we learn his heart and his ways, and we learn to not just learn about him, but I pray and I hope that these things, not just the knowledge, but knowing Yahweh. We see his heart. We see what he desires for us. And we see how Yeshua fulfills all of these things and calls us to not be disobedient to what Yahweh's already given us, but this walking in his word and in his ways, the way that he showed us the example. So I hope that this has been a blessing to you. And if it has, I ask, please share it. However avenue you watch or listen or whatever it may be, please share these teachings, help get them out there. And if this has been a blessing to you, then please consider making a donation to help us keep them moving along, to keep these teachings out there and recording, and there's equipment and things involved in that. So just help us with that to help keep these videos moving along. We want to keep them going. Okay, guys? So if that has been a blessing to you, then please bless as well. And if this is the life the Father's given to us, guys, we need to walk. We need to be the examples. It means we need to show it to those around us. So what do I mean by that? It means if Yahweh has blessed you, be blessed and be a blessing. All right. So till next time.